lights go out, the stories begin. Night stories. Your nightmares become real.
I've always been drawn to the dark web, that shadowy underbelly of the internet where anonymity reigns and the rules of the surface world don't apply. It's not just the allure of forbidden knowledge or the thrill of poking around in places I shouldn't. It's the puzzle of it all. The layers of encryption, the hidden forums, the cryptic messages that feel like they're daring you to dig deeper. So when I stumbled across an alternate reality game buried in a Tor Onion site promising $1 million to the winner, I couldn't resist. I didn't think twice before diving in. That was my first mistake. The game didn't have a name, at least not one I could find. It was just a single post on a forum I'd been lurking in for weeks, a place where people traded everything from hacked data to urban legends about cursed files. The post was simple. A string of coordinates, a grainy image of a rusted metal door in what looked like an abandoned warehouse, and a single sentence. Solve the puzzle, claim the prize. Below it, a Bitcoin wallet address and a promise. $1 million to the first player to complete the game. No rules, no instructions, just an invitation to start. The comments were a mix of skepticism and excitement, but what caught my eye was the timestamp. The post was only an hour old and already a dozen users claimed they were in. I saved the image and coordinates, then opened a text editor to start piecing things together. The coordinates pointed to a small town in rural Ohio, a place I'd never heard of, about a 6-hour drive from where I lived. The door in the image was nondescript but unsettling. Its rust looked almost like blood in the dim light, and there was a faint symbol scratched into the metal, something like a spiral with jagged edges. I cross-referenced the coordinates on a map and found they led to an old industrial park, long abandoned according to public records. That's when I noticed the first red flag. The forum thread had been deleted. Not locked, not archived. Gone. My browser threw a 404 error when I tried to reload it. I checked my VPN, my Tor connection, everything. The post was erased, but I still had the image and the coordinates saved. I should have stopped there. I should have closed my laptop and walked away. But the idea of $1 million, the challenge of an ARG no one else seemed to have cracked yet, it was too much. I posted a vague question about the game on another dark web forum, careful not to reveal too much. Within minutes, I got a private message from a user called Watcher. No profile, no post history, just a blank account. The message was short. Don't play alone. They're watching. I stared at the screen, my stomach twisting. I typed a reply asking who they were, but the message bounced back. User not found. I told myself it was just part of the game, some creepy role play to set the mood. ARGs thrive on that kind of thing, right? Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd just stepped into something I didn't understand. The next day, I drove to the coordinates. I don't know why I felt compelled to go in person. Most ARGs are digital, solved through code breaking or pattern recognition. But something about that image, that door, felt like it was calling me. I packed a bag with my laptop, a flashlight, a pocket knife, and a cheap burner phone, just in case. The drive was long and uneventful, but as I got closer to the town, the air felt heavier. The roads were empty, lined with decaying billboards and overgrown fields. The industrial park was exactly as the satellite images showed, a sprawl of crumbling buildings, rusted machinery, and silence so thick it pressed against my ears. I found the door from the image at the edge of the complex, half hidden behind a pile of broken pallets. It was real, not some photoshopped prop. The spiral symbol was there, scratched into the metal, and up close, it looked less like vandalism and more like something carved with precision, each jagged line deliberate. I took a photo with my phone, my hands shaking slightly. The door was locked, but there was a small keypad next to it, its buttons worn and smudged with dirt. No instructions, no hints. I tried a few random codes, 000-1234, the coordinates themselves, but nothing worked. Then I noticed something on the ground, half buried in the dirt. A piece of paper, folded and yellowed. I unfolded it and found a single word written in smudged ink. Observe. I froze. That word. It felt like a response to the message from Watcher. My heart was pounding now, but I couldn't stop. I typed observe into the keypad, and with a low, grinding hum, the door unlocked. It swung open, revealing a dark staircase descending into the ground. The air that hit me was cold and damp, carrying a faint metallic smell, like blood or rust. I hesitated, my flashlight beam cutting through the darkness, but revealing nothing but concrete walls. This wasn't just an ARG anymore. This was real, and I was standing at the edge of something I couldn't unsee. I went down the stairs. Each step echoed, the sound swallowed by the darkness. At the bottom was a narrow hallway, its walls covered in peeling paint and strange markings. More spirals, some crossed out, others smeared like they'd been drawn in something wet. The metallic smell was stronger here, almost choking. My flashlight caught on something at the end of the hall, a table, and on it, a laptop. It was old, a bulky model from the early 2000s, its screen glowing faintly. I approached, my knife in one hand, my flashlight in the other. The screen displayed a single text file titled Step 1 TXT. I opened it. The file was a wall of text, a mix of instructions and cryptic warnings. It described the first challenge of the game. Find a specific file hidden on a dark web server, accessible only through a provided onion link. The file was supposedly a video, and watching it would reveal the next step. But the text was interspersed with phrases that made my skin crawl. They see you now. The price is paid in blood. Do not trust the others. I copied the onion link and closed the laptop, my hands trembling. That's when I heard it. A faint scraping sound, like metal on concrete, coming from somewhere deeper in the tunnel. I spun around, my flashlight sweeping the darkness. Nothing. Just the empty hallway and those damned spirals on the walls. But the sound came again, closer this time, deliberate. I backed toward the stairs, my heart hammering so hard I thought it might burst. I don't know if it was fear or instinct, but I ran, taking the stairs 2 at a time, not stopping until I was back at my car. I locked the doors and sat there, gasping. The image of that laptop screen burned into my mind. I drove home, without stopping, checking my rearview mirror every few seconds, half expecting to see something following me. Back in my apartment, I opened my laptop and entered the onion link from the text file. It took me to a bare-bones site, just a black background with a single video player. No title, no description, just a play button. I hesitated, my cursor hovering. Every instinct screamed at me to close the browser, to delete everything and forget this ever happened. But the promise of the $1 million, the puzzle, the need to know, it pulled me in. I clicked play. The video was grainy, shot in what looked like a basement with concrete walls. A man sat in a chair, his face blurred, his hands bound behind him. He was sobbing, his voice muffled but desperate. "Please," he kept saying. I didn't know. The camera panned to a table covered in tools, knives, pliers, a hacksaw. A gloved hand picked up the saw, and the man's sobs turned to screams. The video cut to black before anything happened, but the audio kept going, wet, tearing sounds, the kind that make your stomach lurch. Then a voice, low and distorted, said, "Step 1 complete. Find the next." I vomited into the trash can next to my desk. The video was fake, it had to be. RGs use shock value all the time, right? But the screams, the sounds, they felt too real. I checked the forum where I'd first seen the game's post, hoping for some explanation, some sign it was all staged. Instead, I found a new thread, posted just minutes ago. It was a list of usernames, people who'd claimed they were playing the game. Next to each name was a single word, missing. My username was on the list. I slammed my laptop shut, my hands shaking so badly I could barely type. I wanted to believe it was a prank, a clever part of the game meant to scare players off. But the metallic smell from that basement, the scraping sound, the video, they clung to me, burrowing into my thoughts. I didn't sleep that night. Every creak in my apartment, every shadow felt like a threat. I kept my knife on the nightstand, my phone clutched in my hand. I told myself I was done, that I'd walk away and forget the game. But the next morning, I got an email. No sender, no subject. Just a single line. "You've seen too much to stop now." Attached was another onion link. I stared at it, my finger hovering over the delete button. I should have pressed it. I should have burned my laptop and moved to another state. Instead, I clicked the link. That was my second mistake. The new onion link opened to another sparse site, just a black page with a single input field and a prompt, Enter the key from step 1. My mind raced back to the basement, the laptop, the text file. I hadn't seen anything explicitly labeled a key, but the word observe from the paper by the door stuck in my head. It was the only thing that made sense. I typed it in, my fingers hesitating over each letter. The page refreshed instantly, revealing a new video player and a single sentence above it. Step 2. Prove your commitment. No further instructions, just the play button staring at me like an unblinking eye. I didn't want to click it. The memory of the last video, the blurred man, his screams, the wet tearing sounds, still churned my stomach, but the email's warning, "You've seen too much to stop now," echoed in my mind. It wasn't just about the $1 million anymore. It was the fear that stopping might not be an option. What if I was already in too deep? What if they, whoever they were, knew where I lived? I checked my apartment's locks for the 3rd time that morning, the knife still in my pocket, its weight a small comfort. Then I hit play. The video was clearer this time, shot in what looked like a different basement, though the concrete walls and oppressive dimness felt eerily familiar. A woman sat in the center, her face unblurred, her eyes wide with terror. She was young, maybe mid-20s, with matted brown hair and blood streaking her cheek. Her hands were free, but she clutched a piece of paper so tightly her knuckles were white. The camera zoomed in on the paper, revealing handwritten text. "Speak the truth or pay the price." Her lips trembled as she read it aloud, her voice cracking. I didn't follow the rules. I tried to tell someone. I'm sorry. Please don't. Her words cut off as a shadow moved behind her, just out of frame. A gloved hand reached into view, holding a syringe filled with a cloudy liquid. She screamed, thrashing as the needle plunged into her neck. Her body went limp, her eyes rolling back, and the video ended with the same distorted voice from before. Step 2 awaits. Find the truth. I sat there, frozen, my breath shallow. The woman's face was seared into my mind. I didn't recognize her, but something about her voice, her desperation, felt personal, like a warning meant for me. I opened the forum again, the one with the list of usernames marked missing. It was still there, but now a new post had appeared below it, titled Progress Update. No username, no timestamp, just a list of numbers. Player IDs, I realized, each paired with a status, active, failed, or eliminated. My ID, a random string of digits I'd been assigned when I first clicked the onion link, was marked active. 3 others were marked eliminated. I cross-referenced the forum's earlier comments and found their usernames among the ones listed as missing. My hands were shaking as I closed the browser. This wasn't a game anymore, if it ever had been. The videos, the basement, the disappearing players, it was too real, too precise. I thought about the woman in the video, her plea about breaking the rules, trying to tell someone. Was that what got her eliminated? Had she gone to the police? Told a friend? I hadn't told anyone yet, but the urge was there, screaming at me to call someone, anyone. But the email, the warning, the list, it all felt like a noose tightening around my neck. I needed answers, not just for the game, but to understand what I was up against. The text file from the basement had mentioned a server, a hidden file that held the next clue. I reopened my laptop and started digging, using every trick I knew to trace the Onion Link's server. It wasn't easy. Dark websites are designed to be untraceable, bouncing through layers of proxies and encrypted nodes. But I found a sliver of metadata in the video file, a timestamp embedded in the code. It was recent, too recent, uploaded only hours before I'd received the email. Whoever was running this was moving fast. The server was hosted on a node that required a specific credential to access, a key I didn't have. But the video's prompt, "Prove your commitment," gnawed at me. Commitment to what? The game? The rules? I went back to the text file I'd copied from the basement laptop, scanning it for anything I'd missed. Buried in the cryptic warnings was a single line I hadn't noticed before. The truth is in the sacrifice. It felt like a clue, but it was vague, maddeningly so. I spent hours combing through dark web forums, searching for any mention of the game, the videos, or the missing players. Most threads were dead ends, but one user, Echo, posted a cryptic warning, "The game asks for blood. Don't give it." The account was deleted minutes after I saw it. I couldn't stop thinking about the woman in the video, the syringe, her limp body. Was that the sacrifice? Was the game demanding something physical, something real? My mind spiraled, imagining what commitment could mean. I hadn't slept in over a day, and the exhaustion was making everything sharper, more paranoid. Every noise outside my apartment, a car door, a neighbor's footsteps, sent my heart racing. I kept the knife close, checking the windows, the door. I was alone, but it didn't feel like it. Then my phone buzzed. Not the burner, my real phone. A text from an unknown number. "You're doing well. Don't stop now." Attached was a photo, a grainy shot of my apartment building taken from the street outside. My blood went cold. I ran to the window, peering through the blinds, but the street was empty, just the glow of streetlights and parked cars. I checked the text again, but the number was blocked, untraceable. I threw the phone across the room, my breath coming in short, panicked gasps. They knew where I lived. They were watching. I should have called the police. I should have packed a bag and run. But the game had its hooks in me, and not just because of the money. It was the puzzle, the need to know, the fear that stopping would be worse than playing. I went back to the laptop, my hands trembling as I accessed the server again. This time, I noticed a hidden directory in the site's code, buried under layers of obfuscation. It took hours, but I cracked it, revealing a single file. Step2.txt. I downloaded it, my heart pounding. The file was short, just a set of coordinates and a single instruction. Go alone. Bring proof. The coordinates were different this time, pointing to a forest preserve about 2 hours from my city. Proof of what? It didn't say. But the phrase from the video, "Prove your commitment," echoed in my mind. I thought about the woman, the syringe, the word sacrifice. My stomach twisted, but I couldn't stop now. They knew where I was. They'd sent me a photo of my home. Running wasn't an option anymore. I drove to the coordinates that night. The burner phone in my pocket. The knife strapped to my belt. The forest preserve was desolate, the kind of place where the trees seemed to lean in, their branches clawing at the sky. The coordinates led to a clearing, where a single object waited. A metal box, rusted like the door from the first location, with the same spiral symbol etched into its lid. I opened it, my flashlight shaking in my hand. Inside was a note, written in the same smudged ink as before. "Leave something behind. Prove you belong." Next to it was a small glass vial, empty but stained with something dark and viscous. I stared at the vial, my mind screaming at me to leave, to drop everything and run. But the photo of my apartment, the list of missing players, the voice in the video, it all pressed down on me. I took the knife from my belt, my hand trembling as I pressed the blade to my palm. A small cut, just enough to fill the vial. The pain was sharp, but the fear was worse. I let the blood drip into the glass, watching it pool, dark and thick. I sealed the vial and placed it back in the box, my heart hammering so hard I could barely breathe. As I closed the box, I heard it again. The scraping sound from the basement, metal on stone coming from the trees. I spun around, my flashlight cutting through the darkness, but the clearing was empty. The sound stopped, replaced by a low hum, like a machine waking up. I didn't wait to find out what it was. I ran back to my car, my bloody hand leaving smears on the steering wheel. When I got home, another email was waiting. Step 2 complete. Step 3 is closer than you think. I locked the door, barricaded it with a chair, and sat there, the knife in my lap, the vial's weight still heavy in my mind. I didn't know what I'd just given them, or what they'd do with it. But I knew one thing. This wasn't a game anymore. It was a trap, and I was already caught. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? The image of the vial, my blood pooling inside it, kept flashing in my mind, mingling with the woman's screams from the video and the scraping sound in the forest. My apartment felt like a cage, every creak of the floorboards or hum of the refrigerator sending me grabbing for the knife. I'd barricaded the door, but it didn't matter. They knew where I was. The photo of my building, the email, they weren't just part of the game. They were a message. You can't hide. The email from the night before sat open on my laptop, the words, "Step 3 is closer than you think," burning into me. No coordinates this time, No onion link, just that vague, taunting phrase. I kept refreshing my inbox, expecting another message, but nothing came. The silence was worse than the instructions. It left me waiting, imagining what closer meant. My mind spiraled. Were they in my city? My building? Outside my door? I checked the windows again. The street below still empty, but the feeling of being watched clung to me like damp rot. I tried to piece together what I knew. The game had started as a puzzle, an ARG with $1 million prize, but it had twisted into something else, something real, with real consequences. The missing players, the videos, the blood in the vial, it wasn't just roleplay. The forum thread with the list of usernames marked missing or eliminated haunted me. I reopened it on my laptop, using a fresh Tor connection to cover my tracks. The list had grown. 2 more names were marked eliminated, their player IDs crossed out. Mine was still active, but seeing it there made my chest tighten. I scrolled through the comments, hoping for clues, and found a new post from an anonymous user. They take what you give. Don't give more. It was deleted as I read it, the page refreshing to a blank error. I slammed the laptop shut, my bandaged hand throbbing from the cut. The pain was a constant reminder of what I'd done in the forest, the proof I'd left behind. I didn't know what they wanted with my blood, but the word sacrifice from the text file kept echoing. Was that what the woman in the video had done? Given something they used against her? I couldn't shake the image of the syringe, the way her body went limp. I needed to know what I was dealing with, but every step deeper into the game felt like handing over another piece of myself. Around noon, my burner phone buzzed. Not a text, a call, from a blocked number. I stared at it, my thumb hovering over the answer button. Against every instinct, I picked up. Silence at first, then a voice, low and distorted like it was filtered through a machine. "You're doing well," it said. "Step 3 is in your hands." The call cut off before I could speak, but seconds later, the phone buzzed again with a text. An address, a street in my city, less than a mile away. No instructions, just the address and a single word. Tonight. I sat there, the phone shaking in my hand. This was what the email meant. Closer than you think. They weren't just watching. They were here. I thought about running, grabbing my keys and driving until the tank was empty, but the photo of my building, the list of eliminated players, stopped me. If I ran, would I end up like them? Missing, or worse? I didn't know what tonight meant, but the address was real, a small commercial district with shops and warehouses. I mapped it on my laptop, zooming in on the street view. The address pointed to a boarded-up storefront, its windows covered in graffiti, one of them marked with a faint spiral. My stomach dropped. It was the same symbol from the door, the box, the basement walls. I spent the day preparing, though I didn't know for what. I packed the knife, the flashlight, a first aid kit, and a USB drive with every file I'd downloaded from the game. If I was walking into a trap, I wanted evidence, something to leave behind if things went wrong. I thought about telling someone, a friend, a co-worker, but the woman's words in the video, "I tried to tell someone," stopped me. What if that was the rule I'd break? What if that was what got me eliminated? As night fell, I drove to the address. The street was quiet, the shops closed, their neon signs flickering in the dark. The storefront was exactly as it looked online, its windows boarded with splintered plywood, the spiral graffiti glowing faintly under my flashlight. I circled the building, looking for a way in, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. At the back was a metal door, rusted but unlocked, the spiral symbol scratched into its surface. I pushed it open, the hinges screaming, and stepped inside. The air was thick with dust and the same metallic smell from the basement, sharp and nauseating. My flashlight swept the room, revealing broken shelves, shattered glass, and walls covered in more spirals, some drawn in chalk, others in something darker, smeared and glistening. At the center of the room was a table, and on it, a single object, a phone, its screen cracked but glowing. I approached, my knife in one hand, my flashlight in the other. The screen displayed a text message, already open. Step 3. Choose. Below it were 2 buttons labeled Accept and Refuse. I stared at the phone, my mind racing. Choose what? There were no instructions, no clues, just those 2 words staring back at me. I pressed Accept, my finger trembling. The screen flickered and a new message appeared. Good. The package is yours. A low hum started somewhere in the building, like machinery grinding to life. Then I heard it, the scraping sound, metal on concrete, coming from behind the walls. I spun around, my flashlight catching nothing but shadows, but the sound grew louder, closer, deliberate. I backed toward the door, my heart hammering when the phone buzzed again. Another message. "Take it, now." I looked around and saw it, a small cardboard box under the table, unmarked except for the spiral symbol burned into its side. I grabbed it, the weight heavier than I expected, and ran for the door. The scraping sound followed, echoing through the walls, growing faster, like something was chasing me. I didn't look back. I sprinted to my car, threw the box in the passenger seat, and peeled out, the tires screeching as I sped away. When I got home, I barricaded the door again and sat on the floor, the box in front of me. It was sealed with duct tape, the spiral symbol staring up like an accusation. I didn't want to open it, but I had to know. I cut the tape with my knife, my hands shaking so badly I nearly dropped it. Inside was a single item, a USB drive, its casing scratched and stained with something dark. There was a note taped to it, the same smudged ink as before. "Watch it. Choose again." I plugged the USB into my laptop, my stomach churning. A single video file loaded, no title, just a timestamp from earlier that day. I clicked play, dreading what I'd see. The video showed a room, this one different, brighter, clinical, with tiled walls and a drain in the floor. A man was strapped to a chair, his face unblurred, his eyes darting wildly. He was older, maybe 50s, with a beard and blood crusted on his lips. He was muttering, I chose wrong, over and over. A figure in a black hoodie stepped into frame, their face hidden, holding a scalpel. The distorted voice spoke again. "Step 3 complete. Step 4 is final." I retched, barely making it to the sink. The video wasn't fake. The blood, the screams, the way the scalpel moved. It was too real, too precise. I yanked the USB out and threw it across the room, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the knife. The note said, "Choose again." Choose what? To keep playing? To give up? I didn't know, but the box, the video, the scraping sound, they were all warnings. I was in too deep, and they weren't letting me go. My burner phone buzzed again. Another text, another address. This one in my neighborhood, a block away. "Bring the drive, tonight." I looked at the knife, the barricaded door, the USB lying in the corner. I didn't want to go. I didn't want to choose. But the man's screams, the woman's limp body, my name on the list. They were all I could see. I grabbed the drive, the knife, and my keys. I didn't know what step 4 was, but I knew one thing. I wasn't playing a game anymore. I was fighting to survive. The address from the text was a block away, a crumbling tenement building that had been condemned years ago. Its windows were boarded up, the brick walls tagged with graffiti, and that damn spiral symbol was scratched into the rusted gate out front. I stood across the street, clutching the USB drive in my pocket, the knife strapped to my belt, my flashlight tucked into my jacket. The night was cold, the kind of cold that seeps into your bones, but it wasn't the weather making my hands shake. It was the weight of the choice I'd made, clicking accept on that phone, taking the box, watching the video. Each step pulled me deeper into this nightmare. And now I was here, a block from my apartment with no way out. The text had said, "Bring the drive, tonight." No other instructions, just the address and that word, tonight, hanging over me like a guillotine. I thought about the man in the video, the scalpel carving that spiral into his chest, his screams choking into silence. "I chose wrong," he'd said. Was that what happened if you refused? Or was accepting the wrong choice too? My mind spun, replaying every moment. The basement, the forest, the vial of my blood. I'd given them something of myself, and now they had me tethered like a dog on a leash. I crossed the street, my footsteps echoing in the empty night. The gate creaked as I pushed it open, the spiral symbol glinting under my flashlight's beam. The front door was ajar, the lock broken, and the air inside hit me like a slap, damp, sour, with that same metallic tang of blood and rust. I stepped into the lobby, my flashlight sweeping over cracked tiles and walls streaked with mold. The spirals were everywhere, scratched into the plaster, some fresh, others faded, like they'd been there for years. My stomach twisted as I realized some were drawn in something thick and dark. Not paint, not ink. The text hadn't said where to go, but a faint glow came from the stairwell leading up. I climbed, each step groaning under my weight, the knife now in my hand. The air grew heavier, the metallic smell sharper, until it felt like I was breathing iron. On the second floor, the glow led me to a hallway, its walls lined with doors, most boarded shut. At the end was a single open door, the light spilling out, flickering like a dying bulb. I approached, my heart pounding so hard it drowned out the distant city sounds. Inside was a small room, bare except for a table, and on it another laptop, its screen awake and waiting. I shut the door behind me, my instincts screaming to block any surprises. The laptop displayed a single prompt. Insert the drive. I hesitated, the USB burning a hole in my pocket. The man's screams from the video echoed in my head, the spiral carved into his flesh. What would happen if I refused? Would I end up like him, strapped to a chair, bleeding out? I slid the drive into the port, the laptop whirring as it loaded. A new video player appeared, no title, just a play button. My finger hovered over it, every nerve screaming to stop, but I pressed it anyway. I had to know. The video opened on a close-up of a woman's face. Not the one from before. Someone new. Her eyes were blindfolded, her mouth gagged with duct tape. She was trembling, her breaths coming in sharp, muffled gasps. The camera pulled back, revealing a room with concrete walls, a single chair, and a table covered in tools. Knives, a hammer, a syringe. My stomach lurched. It was the same setup as the others, but this time, a figure stood in the frame, their face hidden by a hood, the same black hoodie from the last video. They held a piece of paper, the words scrawled in red. She refused. The figure turned to the woman, picking up a knife from the table. She thrashed against her restraints, her muffled screams tearing through the speakers. The knife pressed against her throat, a thin line of blood welling up, and then the video cut to black. The distorted voice spoke. Step 4. Deliver. The screen went dark, but the laptop didn't stop. A new prompt appeared. Upload proof. Below it was a file upload button and a blank field labeled Target. My hands froze on the keyboard. Deliver what? To who? I looked around the room, half expecting someone to burst through the door, but it was just me, the laptop, and the suffocating silence. Then I noticed something on the table, half hidden under a pile of dust. A folded note, the same yellowed paper as before. I opened it, my hands trembling. It read, "The target is chosen. Find them. Deliver by dawn." I stumbled back, the knife slipping from my hand and clattering to the floor. A target? They wanted me to deliver something. Or someone. My mind flashed to the USB drive, the videos, the blood I'd given. Was this what prove your commitment meant? Not just giving my own blood, but taking someone else's? I felt sick, the room spinning as I tried to make sense of it. The note didn't say who the target was, but the laptop's prompt was clear. Upload proof. Proof of what? A kill? A sacrifice? I couldn't do it, I wouldn't. But then I heard it. The scraping sound, that same metal on concrete grind from the basement, the forest, the storefront. It was close, too close, coming from the hallway outside. I grabbed the knife, my flashlight shaking as I aimed it at the door. The sound stopped, replaced by a low hum, like the one in the forest, but this time it felt alive, pulsing through the walls. I backed against the table, my eyes locked on the door, waiting for it to burst open. Nothing happened, but the hum grew louder, vibrating in my chest, and then the laptop pinged. A new message had appeared on the screen. They're waiting. Don't disappoint. I yanked the USB drive out, stuffed the note in my pocket, and ran. The hallway was empty, but the hum followed me, echoing down the stairwell as I stumbled out of the building. The street was still deserted, but I felt eyes on me, like the darkness itself was watching. I sprinted home, barricading the door again, my breath ragged. The USB drive and the note sat on my kitchen table, taunting me. I couldn't stop shaking, couldn't think straight. Deliver by dawn. It was already past midnight. I had hours, maybe less, to figure out what they wanted. I opened my laptop, my hands still trembling, and checked the forum again. The list of players had updated. Another name was marked eliminated, and a new post had appeared, anonymous as always. The target is closer than you think. My blood ran cold. It was the same phrase from the email, the same vague threat. I searched the note again, looking for anything I'd missed, and found a string of numbers scrawled on the back, barely legible. Coordinates? A code? I typed them into my browser, half expecting another onion link, but they matched an address. My neighbor's apartment, the one across the hall. I froze, my heart stopping. My neighbor, Sarah, a quiet woman who'd moved in a few months ago. We'd barely spoken, just polite nods in the hallway, but I knew her face, her voice. Was she the target? Was I supposed to deliver her? The thought made my stomach heave. I couldn't do it. I wasn't a killer, but the videos, the missing players, the blood, they were all real. If I refused, would I end up like the woman in the blindfold, the man with the spiral carved into his chest? I paced my apartment, the knife in my hand, the clock ticking closer to dawn. I thought about knocking on Sarah's door, warning her, telling her to run. But what if that was the trap? What if telling her broke the rules, like the woman in the second video? I checked the forum again, desperate for answers, and found a new comment, posted seconds ago. The game chooses for you. Don't resist. It was deleted before I could reply. The hum started again, faint but unmistakable, coming from outside my door. I gripped the knife, my pulse racing, and crept to the peephole. The hallway was empty, but the sound was there, steady, growing louder. I backed away, my eyes darting to the USB drive, the note, the laptop. I had to make a choice, deliver the target or refuse and face whatever came next. I didn't know what was worse, but I knew one thing. Dawn was coming, and I was running out of time. The hum outside my door grew louder, a low, mechanical drone that seemed to pulse in time with my heartbeat. I stood frozen, the knife slick in my sweaty palm, the USB drive and note staring up from the table like accusations. The address, Sarah's apartment right across the hall, was burned into my mind. The game's demand, deliver by dawn, hung over me, and the clock on my phone read 3:14 a.m., less than 3 hours left. And the hum was still there, vibrating through the walls, through my bones, like it was alive and waiting for me to move. I couldn't do it. I couldn't deliver Sarah, whatever that meant. Hand her over, hurt her, or worse. The videos flashed through my head. The man carved with the spiral, the woman with the syringe, the blindfolded one with the knife at her throat. Each one had refused or chosen wrong and paid for it. My name was still active on the forum's list, but for how long? If I didn't deliver, would I be next, strapped to a chair, my screams recorded for the next player to watch? I thought about running, grabbing my keys and disappearing, but the photo of my building, the texts, the hum, they had me cornered. They knew where I was and they weren't letting go. I crept to the door, my breath shallow, and pressed my ear against it. The hum was steady, but no footsteps, no voices, just that relentless drone. I checked the peephole again, nothing but the dim hallway, the flickering light above Sarah's door. I thought about her, the way she'd smile faintly when we passed in the hall, her quiet life. Was she part of this? A player, like me? Or just a pawn, chosen to test my commitment? The note's words, "the target is chosen," felt like a knife twisting in my gut. I didn't want to hurt her, but the game's rules were clear: deliver or pay the price. I grabbed the USB drive and slipped it into my pocket, along with the knife and my burner phone. If I was going to do this, whatever this was, I needed to know more. I opened my laptop and checked the forum again, my hands shaking as I navigated the Tor browser. The list of players had updated, another name marked eliminated, and a new post, anonymous, posted minutes ago. The choice is yours, but the game decides. Below it was a string of numbers, not coordinates this time, but a code. I recognized the format, a hex string, like the ones used to access hidden directories on dark web servers. I copied it, my heart pounding, and entered it into the onion link from the last step. The page loaded, revealing a live feed. My breath caught. It was Sarah's apartment, the camera angled to show her living room. She was there, sitting on her couch, unaware, scrolling through her phone. The feed was grainy, but I could see her clearly. Her dark hair tied back, her face lit by the phone's glow. A timestamp in the corner confirmed it was live, and a text overlay read, "Deliver by dawn. Proof required." My stomach churned. They were watching her. just like they were watching me. I scanned the feed for clues, anything to tell me what to do, and noticed a faint spiral scratched into her coffee table, barely visible. It was them. They'd been in her apartment, marking it, just like they'd marked mine. I closed the laptop, my mind racing. I couldn't hurt her, but I couldn't ignore the game either. The hum outside my door hadn't stopped, and now it felt like it was inside my head, urging me to move. I thought about knocking on her door, warning her, but the woman's words from the second video, "I tried to tell someone," stopped me. What if that was the test? What if warning her marked me as a failure? I needed a plan, something to buy time, to figure out who was behind this. I grabbed a piece of paper and wrote a note. "They're watching you. Get out now." I didn't sign it, didn't add details, just those words, vague enough to protect me if it was found. I slipped it under Sarah's door, my heart hammering as I pressed myself against the wall, listening for the hum. It was still there, but fainter now, like it was moving away. I waited, my hand on the knife, until I heard her door creak open. Through the peephole, I saw her pick up the note, her face paling as she read it. She looked around, then shut the door quickly, the lock clicking. I went back to my apartment, barricading the door again. My burner phone buzzed. A new text, from the same blocked number. "Wrong choice." My blood ran cold. The hum surged, louder, closer, coming from the walls now, like something was inside them. I grabbed the USB drive and plugged it into my laptop, desperate for answers. A new file had appeared, titled Step 5 TXT. I opened it, my hands shaking. It was short. "You failed to deliver. Step 5 is penance. Find the mark by dawn." The mark. Not a target this time, a mark. My mind flashed to the spirals, the ones carved into doors, walls, the man's chest. Was that the mark? Or was it something else? I checked the live feed again, but it was offline, the screen blank except for a single message. "She's gone. You're next." My heart stopped. Had Sarah run? Had they taken her? I ran to the window, peering through the blinds, but the street was empty, no sign of her or anyone else. The hum was deafening now, shaking the floor. I grabbed the knife and moved to the door, ready to run, but my laptop pinged. Another email. No sender. No subject. "The mark is on you." I froze, my hand going to my chest, my neck, my arms, searching for something I couldn't see. Then I felt it, a faint sting on my palm, where I'd cut myself for the vial. I held it under the light, and there it was. A tiny spiral, barely visible, etched into my skin. Not a scar, not a tattoo, something fresher, raw, like it had been burned in while I wasn't looking. Panic clawed at me. I scrubbed at the mark with soap, with alcohol, but it wouldn't fade. The hum was everywhere now, in the walls, the floor, my skull. My phone buzzed again. Another text. "Bring yourself, now." An address followed. This one, a warehouse on the edge of the city, a place I'd driven past 100 times without noticing. The spiral on my palm throbbed like it was alive, urging me to go. I didn't want to. Every instinct screamed to stay, to hide, to fight. But the videos, the missing players, the mark on my skin, they were all proof that running wasn't an option. I grabbed the USB drive, the knife, and my keys, the hum following me as I left the apartment. The warehouse wasn't far, but the drive felt endless, the city lights blurring into streaks. When I arrived, the building loomed in the darkness, its windows black, the spiral symbol spray-painted across its doors. I stepped inside, the air thick with that metallic smell, stronger now, almost choking. The hum was louder, coming from deep within the warehouse. My flashlight caught on spirals covering the walls, some fresh, some crusted with dried blood. At the center of the room was a chair, a table, and a camera on a tripod, its red light blinking. On the table was a syringe filled with that same cloudy liquid from the second video. A note was taped to it. Step 5. Atone. I backed away, my heart pounding, the knife raised. The hum stopped, replaced by footsteps, slow and deliberate, coming from the shadows. A figure stepped into the light, hooded, faceless, holding a scalpel that glinted under my flashlight. The distorted voice spoke, not from the figure but from the camera, echoing through the room. "You chose to play. Now Choose to finish. I gripped the knife, my eyes darting to the syringe, the camera, the figure. The mark on my palm burned, the spirals on the walls seeming to pulse. I had seconds to decide. Take the syringe, fight, or run. But the footsteps were closer now, more than one, circling me in the dark. I realized then, step 5 wasn't about delivering someone else. It was about delivering myself. The warehouse was a tomb, the air thick with the metallic stench of blood and the weight of my own dread. The spirals on the walls seemed to writhe under my flashlight's beam, their jagged edges pulsing in time with the mark on my palm, which burned like a brand. The hooded figure stood motionless, the scalpel in their hand catching the light, while the camera's red eye blinked steadily, recording every second. The distorted voice echoed again from the camera's speaker. You chose to play. Now choose to finish. The footsteps circling me in the shadows grew louder, closing in, and I knew there was no running from this. Step 5 was penance, and the syringe on the table, filled with that cloudy, viscous liquid, was my final test. I gripped the knife, my knuckles white, my heart slamming against my ribs. The mark on my palm throbbed, a reminder of the blood I'd already given, the choices I'd made. The note's word, atone, stared up at me from the table, and I understood now. The game wasn't about winning $1 million. It never had been. It was about breaking me, stripping away every piece of who I was until I had nothing left to give but myself. The missing players, the videos, Sarah, they were all part of it, a machine designed to grind us down. And I'd walked right into it. The figure took a step forward, the scalpel glinting as they raised it. The footsteps in the shadows stopped, but I could feel them, others, unseen, waiting. My eyes darted to the syringe, then to the camera. The voice had said, finish, but what did that mean? Inject myself with whatever was in that syringe, fight, or something worse? I thought of the man carved with the spiral, the woman with the needle in her neck, the blindfolded one with the knife at her throat. They'd all chosen, and they'd all lost. My name was still active on the forum, but for how much longer? I backed against the table, the knife shaking in my hand. What do you want? I shouted, my voice cracking in the silence. The figure didn't answer, but the camera's speaker hummed to life. Deliver, it said, the word sharp and final. My mind raced back to Sarah, the note I'd slipped under her door, the live feed of her apartment. Had she escaped or had they taken her? Was she here in the shadows watching? I scanned the darkness, my flashlight catching only glimpses of movement. Hooded shapes, their faces hidden, their hands holding tools that glinted like the scalpel. The mark on my palm burned hotter, and I looked down to see it spreading, the spiral's lines growing darker, deeper, like it was carving itself into me. I clawed at it with my nails, drawing blood, but it wouldn't stop. The pain was blinding, and for a moment I thought I heard laughter, low and distorted, coming from the camera. I stumbled, my vision blurring, and grabbed the syringe off the table, not because I wanted to use it, but because it was something to hold, something to anchor me. The figure lunged, the scalpel slicing through the air. I swung the knife, catching their arm, and they staggered back, a hiss of pain escaping the hood. But the footsteps in the shadows moved closer, and I realized I wasn't fighting one person. I was surrounded. I threw the syringe at the camera, shattering the lens, and the distorted voice cut off mid-word. The hum surged, louder than ever, shaking the floor, the walls, my skull. I ran for the door, the knife still in my hand, but the shadows were faster. Hands grabbed me, cold and strong, pinning my arms, forcing me to the ground. The knife clattered away, useless. I screamed, thrashing, but they were too many. A hood was pulled over my head, the fabric suffocating, reeking of sweat and blood. I felt a prick in my neck, sharp and cold, and my body went heavy, my limbs refusing to move. The last thing I heard was the hum, steady and relentless, as the world faded to black. When I woke, I was in a chair, my wrists bound with zip ties, my mouth gagged with tape. The room was small, concrete, with a single bulb swinging overhead. The walls were covered in spirals, some fresh, some crusted with blood, and the metallic smell was so thick I could taste it. A camera sat on a tripod in front of me, its red light blinking, and a table nearby held tools, knives, pliers, a syringe. My heart stopped. This was it, the scene from the videos, the one I'd been running from. I was the next player to be eliminated. I struggled against the ties, but they bit into my skin, drawing blood. The mark on my palm was gone, or maybe it had spread so far I couldn't see it anymore. My body felt wrong, heavy, like something foreign was inside me. The door opened, and a figure stepped in, hooded, their face hidden. They didn't speak, just picked up a knife from the table and approached. I screamed against the gag, my voice muffled, my eyes locked on the blade. It pressed against my chest, cold and sharp, and I braced for the pain, the spiral, the end. But the figure stopped. They tilted their head, like they were listening to something I couldn't hear. The camera's light flickered, and a new voice came through, not distorted this time, but clear, almost human. "You've delivered," it said. "The game is complete." The figure stepped back, lowering the knife, and I felt a wave of relief so intense I nearly sobbed. But it didn't last. The voice continued. "You are ours now." The zip ties were cut, the gag removed, but I couldn't move. My body was still heavy, my mind foggy, like the syringe had left something behind. The figure handed me a phone, its screen glowing with a new message. "Welcome to the fold. Await instructions." I stared at it, my hands trembling, as the figure walked out, leaving me alone with the camera, the tools, the spirals. The hum was gone, replaced by silence so thick it pressed against my ears. I don't know how I got home. The next thing I remember is sitting in my apartment, the phone on the table, the USB drive next to it. The forum was gone, the onion links dead, the list of players erased. My name wasn't active or eliminated anymore. It didn't exist. I checked my palm, my chest, my reflection, searching for the spiral, but there was nothing. No mark, no proof, just the weight in my chest, the feeling that something was still inside me, watching, waiting. I tried to call Sarah, to see if she'd escaped, but her number was disconnected, her apartment empty. The note I'd slipped under her door was gone, like it had never existed. I checked the news, the dark web, every corner I could think of, but there was no trace of the game, no mention of the missing players. It was like it had been erased, like I'd dreamed it all, except for the phone, the one they'd given me, sitting on my table, silent but alive. Days passed, then weeks. I didn't sleep, didn't eat, just waited for the phone to buzz. When it finally did, I almost didn't answer, but I knew I had no choice. The message was simple: an address, a name, and a single word: deliver. The name wasn't Sarah's. It was someone new, someone I didn't know. But the weight in my chest tightened, the spiral's echo burning in my mind. I realized then what the game had done. It hadn't ended. It had changed me. I wasn't a player anymore. I was part of it, a piece of their machine, bound by the blood I'd given, the choices I'd made. I grabbed the knife, the phone, and my keys. The address was close, too close, and the name was just a name, but it didn't matter. I'd seen what happened to those who refused, and I wasn't ready to die. Not yet. The hum was back, faint but growing, guiding me as I stepped into the night. The game was over, but I was still playing, and I didn't know how to stop. Thank you for listening. Hope I didn't scare you too much. If you like my stories, please consider giving me a like and subscribe. See you next time.